How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new build to the channel, technically riding off the back of the Big Booms build. This is called ONE BAR Plar. Now, I bet you can't guess what that's all about. Yes, of course, it's a 1 bar Templar, mostly designed for the Infinite Archive or small group content, but you can use it pretty much anywhere. But you have to consider that there are conditions. That being that the two sets require additional enemies. So on single target fights, it will do very well, but it'll do much better the more enemies there are around, because your damage will scale based off of that. And I know you're thinking of one particular set, and you're already wrong. Now, the design is quite simple. Taking advantage of our Templar abilities and passives, making sure that we've got survival, damage output, sustainability, single target, and air effect all at the same time. But making it simple. Lots of people struggle in this game, especially when it comes to 2 bars, swapping backwards and forwards, getting the wrong skills, etc, etc. They want it simplified. So this is the off balance or Big Booms build simplified. Again, Infinite Archive, perfect for everything else, up to you and still will perform, but adds are necessary. Anyway, I'm going to go into the stats first of all, then I'm going to go into the skills. We do have a class guide on the channel going over all the Templar skills. Now, over time, yes, some of those things do change. You can keep an eye on the updates playlist on my channel for those. Anyway, we're going to go over the stats first of all. 64 points into max magicka, giving us 31.1k max mag, 24.6k max health, and 15.4k max stamina. Recovery is pretty good. Make sure we've got a potion running here. With 957 mag recovery, 579 health recovery, and 1239 stam recovery. The stam recovery is actually really useful for us. It gives us more flexibility when it comes to taking advantage of dodge rolls, blocks, interrupts, all that kind of stuff, because we get our resources back quite quick. The mag recovery is decent, but we can escalate that obviously in certain content depending on your group and depending on buffs and bonuses if you're in the Infinite Archive. Generally speaking, we're using a magical staff anyway, lightning staff specifically, which means we can heavy attack, still do damage, still do splash damage as well, and get resources back if you need to. Take advantage of off-balance opportunities because we are, of course, taking advantage of Empower at all times. Weapon and spell damage is on 5514. Technically speaking, that will go up if we're in combat to 5914. If we use our weapon and spell damage glyph, depending on how much you buff that, at average, we're looking at about 6.5-ish. But we can go much, much higher than that. Spell and physical resistance are hovering around the 20k mark, and spell and crit chance is actually 43.7. With a sorcerer in your group, that'll be 49. And obviously, if you're in the Infinite Archive, you can escalate that even more. Spell and physical pen is a healthy 3k. Obviously, that feels quite low, but as a medium build, that's actually pretty good. And if you get Pierce and Perfection inside the Infinite Archive, that will stack up very, very nicely alongside buffs and bonuses if you have someone with you. All these buffs are with us all the time because we are using the One Ring. Thief Munderstone to plug the gap, otherwise our crit is a little bit low. Now, we're going to go into the skills very quickly. The choices are yours if you want to swap out the first skill, but the rest of it pretty much set in stone because it just simply works. So, first of all is Consuming Trap. You get this straight away when you start the game. It starts off as Soul Trap, morphed to Consuming Trap, and you can even change the color of it if you like to purple if you've unlocked that. This is a very simple skill. You activate it on a single target, and yes, you can apply it on multiple different targets at the same time, and each one will have its own dot. That damage over time lasts 20 seconds, does magic damage, and if the enemy dies while this is present, you get back 20% of all 3 bars. Magicka, health, and stamina. So, the more you have at the time, the more you get back, and also if it dies and you have multiple targets that die, you can stack and stack and stack this. And yes, that is an actual heal, which can crit. So this basically, if you maintain this, just make sure you get kills, and you're guaranteed to keep up your resources and your health. Now, you can swap this out if you want. If you can't use it actively and you are struggling, you can simply put on Vigor and use Resolving Vigor. Don't spam it. It only lasts 5 seconds, but it's a pretty good heal over time with a decent amount of burst to it per tick. It's quite nice. But the choice is yours. That's your survival skill, and it does damage, so your choice what you do with that slot. This one here is Solar Barrage. Now, of course, you've got the Dawn's Wrath skill line here for the Templar. This is a crucial skill. You need this active and maintained all the time. Lasts 22 seconds, starts off as Solar Flare, morph it to Solar Barrage. This will do damage in area of effect around you in an 8-meter radius, so yes, that's 16 meters across, and it will do damage every 2 seconds in the form of magic damage. Yes, that means status that comes from this, if you're lucky, is Overcharged, which gives you loads of damage, and of course, minor magic still. The main point of this skill, apart from doing damage, is that while this is active, all of your class abilities for the Templar do more damage. 5% more, and that is crucial towards your stabs and your spears and your Jesus Beam, meaning that you've got higher execute power, and the more damage you do, the more you'll heal, so it helps. Yes, obviously Empower does come from this particular skill as well, which is great, but we don't need that part of it because we've already got it with the ring. If you weren't using the ring, you'd have it with this skill. Radiant Glory. Same skill line, last skill you unlock. Starts off as Radiant Destruction, morph it to Radiant Glory. Now, I know people will tell you, use Oppression. Well, technically speaking, there is only a very small difference between the two. This one deals up to 480% more damage at low health. So the lower the health, the more damage it does. The other one deals up to 500% more damage. There's barely anything in it. And if you crit with this one and not with the other one, or have less crits with the other one and more with this one, and vice versa, whatever way you want to look at it, you can actually end up doing exactly the same DPS. The difference is this particular one, while it's channeling, gives you back magicka based on the amount of health the enemy has, so the lower the better, and it gives you heals as well. So the damage you do will be healed. That can be inflated with healing done and healing received bonuses. So basically for doing damage at execute, you stay alive. It's very, very powerful. Don't leave home without this version of the skill. Technically speaking, with this skill on this build, if anything starts hitting 40% health or lower, that's when you want to start spamming this instead of your next skill, which is our main spammable. So keep your dots up, keep Jesus beaming, and it will die very, very fast. The reason for that is once you get to the 40% threshold, it starts dropping relatively quick anyway, as long as you're doing what you should be doing, and you'll start creeping into the higher DPS part of your build, and this next skill will become less relevant. This is your main spammable. This is in the Adric Spear skill line. First one you unlock starts off as Puncturing Strikes, morph it to Puncturing Sweeps. This one costs magicka, does damage to enemies in front of you, and does more damage to the closest target, and it applies a snare as well. You will heal for 36% of the damage done, including the enemies you hit around the main target. So, spamming this all the time will give you heals, and then spamming your execute during 40% and lower will give you heals as well. So you're in a good spot either way, plus if enemies die, you can heal from this. Bear in mind, at 40% and lower, you want to start using this. I know it says 50, but that's the starting point, and that will be weaker than your puncturing sweeps to start with at that point. Once you get to 40, this will trump that skill and actually outperform it, so that's when you want to start using that. Blazing Spear, of course, is the last skill, apart from our ultimate. Same skill line here. Basically, you throw it on the ground, and people in your group can take up a synergy, which will give them magicka or stamina back, depending on which one is higher for them. At the same time, you do magic on impact in area of effect, and immobilize enemies, and do damage over time. So damage over time, big impact, immobilization, resources for your group. It's a no-brainer. Chuck this on the ground, run into the enemies, jab them with this. It's pretty much it. Maintain this skill, chuck it on the floor, jab, 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 jab. At execute, maintain this, chuck that on the floor, Jesus beam until they're dead. Just maintain that. That's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. Shooting Star. Yes, there's lots of different ultimates in the game. You can go for all the different ones if you want and decide which one is your favorite. But as far as performance is concerned, this one did actually outperform the rest of them for this particular build. So, Mage's Guild. Mage's Guild 10 is required. Yes, if you don't have Mage's Guild 10, obviously use any ultimate you favor. But if you do have it, you're going to want this. Starts off as Meteor. Turn it into Shooting Star. This will drop on the enemy, stun the enemy and enemies around it. It will do large impact fire damage on initial landing, and then it will leave a damage over time of flame on the ground underneath that target, so surrounding enemies can be hurt as well. In the meantime, any target that is hit will give you 12 ultimate back. So that does mean in a big cluster, you get loads and loads of ultimate back, and sometimes you can spam it. It's incredible. Get this as soon as you possibly can. Now for passives. Now, these are all in the class guide, of course, and yes, sometimes they change over time, but I'm going to glaze over these as to ones you're going to need rather than all the intricacies of them. I mean, you should probably pick up some of this here anyway, but we'll go over them quite quickly. Increase your critical damage done and damage done against blocking targets if you have an Adric Spear ability slotted. We do have 2, so we're good. Gain minor protection if you use a Adric Spear ability, or an Adric Spear ability, get your English out, and that will also give you a bonus to taking less damage. Technically speaking, that's not important for us because we're using the one ring, but the passive is there nonetheless. When you deal damage with any damage, basically, you will generate Burning Light for 3 seconds. After reaching 4 stacks, you do 3 damage. It's no-brainer. Just do damage. It can stack every half a second. It scales off your highest offensive stats. So, our weapon or spell damage, and of course our magicka, because that's the higher bar. Increase your weapon and spell damage by 6% and physical spell resistance by 1320. That is a flat bonus for the Templar. Happy days. Bear in mind, I didn't go over the food at the very beginning. We're using flat stuff. Blue food. Max health, max magic. You don't need anything else. If you want to change it, by all means do so, but you'll get less damage out and you'll have less health. Very simple. Increases duration of Sunfire, Eclipse, and Solar Flare. Solar Flare is technically Solar Barrage. That will increase the timer. Cast of the Dawn's Wrath ability will give you ultimate, only if you cast this at least once every 6 seconds. Anything more than that or anything faster won't work. Cast of Dawn's Wrath ability gives your group 20 seconds worth of minor sorcery, so higher spell damage for you and them. This technically lasts 22 seconds. If you cast it every 20, you're good. and reduce the cost of health, magical, or stamina, and ultimate abilities by 5%. Winning. You're not using any skills here at all. You can, of course, use a burst heal if you prefer, but technically speaking, since we're made for medium armor, you want to maintain as much magicka as you can because your recovery is lower for that resource bar. So spamming loads of magicka abilities on top of already doing loads of magicka abilities is going to be quite tricky. So this is why you want to put this on targets and kill them, or swap it for vigor so it's a stamina cost rather than a magicka cost. Again, you can go for one of these if you want, but you're going to struggle. You're going to need to heavy attack a lot more often. Increase the healing effects and restoring light. Don't need it. Standing, rune focus, ritual, etc., etc. Don't need it. When you heal an ally under 50% with the restoring light, don't need it again. And of course, increases resurrection speed. That is important. You are fast as hell at resing people. Get this passive. The rest of them can be dumped unless you're using one of these skills, which again, don't necessarily recommend. Destro staff, of course, is important. We are using a lightning staff. So any heavy attack that we complete will obviously do splash damage, equivalent of the 100% of the damage done to the target you just affected it with. So any buffs, debuffs, whatever that are on that target are considered when you're doing damage, and that damage will equal in every effect. Bear in mind, the surrounding targets also may have buffs, debuffs, whatever on them, and they are also considered for the splash. Your destruction staff abilities ignore 2974 of enemy spell resistance. Yep, you got more pen for your light attacks, heavy attacks, and your Destro skills if you have any extras, which we don't. Increases your chance of applying status effects by 100%. That is 100% of the base. So if it's 20%, it's now 40. If it's 5%, it's now 10, so on and so forth. All you have to do is hold a staff. And lightning staves, again, increase your direct damage and channeled effects. You're going to like this one. The initial launch of this skill is direct damage. This one is damage over time, so that's irrelevant, and so is this. But these two here are both direct and channeled. Damage over time and channeled. No, they don't double dip, by the way. Some skills have multiple types of damage. They can take multiple types of damage from different sources, i.e. you can build for direct and channeled, or, well, direct and damage over time, in fact. But the staff itself, the passive bonus, is a one-time thing. It picks that part from the skill, and you benefit from that. When you kill an enemy with a destruction staff ability, you restore magicka. We're not really using any destruction staff abilities, but the lights and heavies do count. We're technically using one piece of light, so you are going to want to get all these passives, especially this one, because it will give you spell pen and physical pen. You are going to need that. The rest are minor bonuses to recovery, reduction to cost, and all that good stuff. You are going to need them. They are minimal, but they do count. But this one, overall, you got to get. Medium armor, you can read through these in your own time, realistically, but they give you crit damage, weapon and spell damage, reduction to cost for dodge roll, and all that good stuff as well, and you're quite fast. Technically, both of our sets are medium, so we haven't got a choice. Get the passives. Soul magic is not important as far as passives are concerned. You can get them if you want. Although we're using a consume and trap ability, technically none of those really benefit it, so you don't have to get those, but they're nice to have if you have them. Fighters Guild not using. Mages Guild we are. This is important. So this here will reduce the cost of Mages Guild skills if you were using them. Technically speaking, that doesn't affect the ultimate, so that's not important. This will increase the duration of the skill, so that does affect the damage over time from the meteor. This increases your magicka and mag recovery while any Mages Guild abilities are on your bar. Yes, that will help. And this one grants you Empower. Not relevant. Can you get the passive? Sure. But we've got 3 stacks of Empower right now. If we use a Meteor, that procs. If we use Solar Flare or Solar Barrage, that procs. And if we've got our ring on, that is always there anyway. So we don't need it. So the only ones you really need is this one here and this one here. Those two. Undaunted, if you take a synergy, you get resources back. Take the synergies. Simple as that. And we're using 2 different types of armor. Light and medium. So we get 4% increased resources across the board. No, we're not going to be able to put a heavy on because 2 sets are medium. Also, we're a high elf. Technically speaking, you do not have to be a high elf. You can be any race in the game that you like. You can be dark elf. You can be orc, Nord, Breton, whatever you feel. It doesn't matter what you are, even if you're a cat. Sorry, cats. But for the purpose of passives, I have chosen this for this particular build. When you activate an ability, your lowest resource is the one that benefits from it. And it's quite simple. So if we were to use spears or jabs or Jesus beam or whatever, that is going to be from our highest bar, the lowest one benefits. So yes, we get stamina for using magicka once every 6 seconds. And when using an ability that's channeling, you will actually take less damage. So puncturing sweeps, Jesus beam, or a heavy attack. Any of those, we take less damage. We're actually protected. Increase max magicka, highest bonus in the game. Increase weapon and spell damage, highest bonus in the game. Simply quite flat. It's not the end of the world if you change races. It's entirely up to you. And yes, of course, you can benefit in many different ways with other different ones. These are just the passives I chose to take. Medicinal use. you are going to be using tripods. And yes, you're going to be running out of them. Use them. If you activate it with this passive, you'll get 47 seconds worth of 3 recovery bonuses and a burst to your resource pool. Don't just wait until you run out and pop one, because 2 skills, you're going to be empty again. You need to maintain it by taking advantage of that recovery. As soon as it's great, brilliant, you're using it. If it's not great, pop another one. If you're complaining about how expensive potions are, go farm more money. Right, so now we're going to get into the gear. This is going to come as a surprise for some and maybe not so much for others. This is riding off the back of the Big Booms build, and I know some people are screaming what they think is there already, and you're probably wrong. So, first up, this is absolutely fucking useless on the dummy. Because the dummy is a manipulated tool that has very specific buffs and bonuses on it, in very specific timers, if they have timers at all, and there are about 20 plus buffs, bonuses, synergies, and gear set procs that do not exist on that dummy, that can't even be used on that dummy in some situations. So it's a mess. Not to mention, 2 of the sets we're using do not fire on the dummy. So while you can easily crack 70k with this on that rigged piece of crap, 2 of the sets don't even fire. Get into content, kill ads, and everything will make more sense. Let's go. Himjaz Lightning Staff. Yes, that comes from Ruins of Mazatan, or Ruins of Marzipan. Weapon and spell damage glyph with precise on the Lightning Staff. We get stam recovery, stam and weapon crit, and spell crit, and of course weapon damage and spell damage. When you are within 28 meters of an enemy you are in combat with and the enemy dies, you get Major Berserk for 10 seconds, increasing your damage by 10%. That is a fucking huge buff. That is basically with you all the time if you're in the Infinite Archive, and you don't have to be the one to get the kill. If you're in a trial, dungeon, arena, or Infinite Archive, or whatever, even if you're in PvP, anything that dies within 28 meters of you, you will benefit from. Happy days. Lightning Staff on the front, then 1 on the necklace, 1 on the ring, and then 1 on the body. Bear in mind, this is a completely medium setup, so it doesn't actually matter where any of these pieces go. The other set, which is, of course, Macabre Vintage, this is an overland set. You can buy it off the market. We literally just got this set given to us with a recent event. Everyone should have it. If they don't have it, you can buy it. So, Himjaz and this set combined. This is weapon and spell damage, weapon and spell damage, weapon and spell damage again, weapon and spell damage again. You can see where this is going. When you kill a monster, so this time when you kill one, it blows up, dealing a maximum of 50% of their health to enemies around them in bleed damage, which can, of course, apply hemorrhage if you're lucky, and it goes up to 24k. This damage cannot critically strike, and this effect can occur once every 0.5 seconds. So you get kills, things go bang, 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 bang. Now, bear in mind, while this doesn't necessarily scale any higher with flat stats, as far as your weapon and spell damage is concerned, or your effective stats to your combat, so your magicka or your stamina, your offensive ones, this can scale in other ways. Minor Slayer, Major Slayer, extra flat damage bonuses to the damage type, i.e. bleed, increase to your flat with minor or major berserk, that does boost this. So when you get kills and Himjaz fires off, this gets stronger. So the trick is to get kills. Again, this is medium, so you can get the whole set in the body for Himjaz if you want, and then go Lightning Staff of Macabre with the jewelry pieces. Bear in mind, of course, that gives us 1 slot on the body left. Now, the shoulders is Scoria Light. The reason for Vulcan Scoria on the shoulders is the pen bonus. If you've got Krag or anything else that has a 1-piece bonus for penetration, get that and put that on. No, we're not going with crit chance. That small crit chance bonus is quite nice, but it's not going to help us as much as this is. So get this on here as soon as possible. Again, make sure it is light. Only taking it for the pen. That will give us a decent amount from medium armor, and it means if you do get Pierce and Perfection inside the Infinite Archive, instead of getting a small amount from your 37% bonus, you get a much, much higher bonus. We are using the one ring, of course, the Oaken Soul ring. If you look on the website, there is a guide on how to acquire this, unless you've already got it. This will give you a massive, massive load of minor and major buffs that also consider single and group content. So if you're on your own, these buffs are here to make up for the fact that you have got less skills than most people and an ultimate missing. But if you're in a group, most of the buffs and bonuses that the group can provide can still help you. So it's a healthy balance between the two. Technically speaking, you want maximum magicka on absolutely everything, but if you do struggle, you do want the extra stamina, you can swap a couple of traits out or glyphs out. This one has got tri-stat on both of them. Not important. You can go flat magic if you want. And this one's got stamina on it because it just came with it. If you want to put more magicka into it, you'll have a much bigger magicka bar, but you will suffer with stamina. At the moment, we're a good balance for the two, but you can tweak it to give it a little bit more damage if you want. Again, Macabre and Heemjaz alongside Valken Scoria Shoulders or Krag alongside Oaken Soul Ring. Bloodthirsty on everything, weapon and spell damage on everything. Happy days. So, champion points, what do we need? If you are in need of defensive bonuses, then it is up to you to swap out your blue champion points, sacrifice a bit of damage, and do so. But for the time being, we are going flat damage. So, Wrathful Strikes, Deadly Aim, Thaumaturge, and Master at Arms. This will enhance your jabs and your light attacks, and this will enhance your jabs and your light attacks and your Jesus Beam even. This will affect your Jesus Beam also, and your Spear and your Soul Trap and all that good stuff. You've got a good balance of what does what for everything, and then across the board, this weapon and spell damage here actually boosts everything. So, single target stuff, damage over time, direct damage, all covered. That was probably a backwards way to explain it, but hopefully you understand what I mean. In the meantime, all these little passives here, these can be slotted as and when. They don't take up any extra space. Just get them as you unlock them. They're inevitable for every single player. The 4 slottables are key. Speaking of 4 slottables, you've got these ones. Health, armor, and recovery. You don't need any prerequisites for those. Just get them as soon as you can. Technically speaking, the recovery bonus might not be for you because you might be struggling with stamina. If you are, swap it for Bloody Renewal and you're good to go. The other one you want is this one, which is Siphoning Spells. Every time you get a kill, you get magic back. Stamina can also be an option to have both of them, so you get both pulls back at the same time, but it depends on how you're doing. If you don't need it, keep the recovery. If you do need it, obviously swap that out. Green Tree is completely irrelevant for everything in combat, apart from the nice stuff that you get at the end of combat, like treasure chests. This will give you higher quality loot from chests. This will make your food last longer if you really want it to do that, and we're using flat stuff anyway, so it's not really that much of a problem. This will help you with your potions, of course. You can have a chance of not using one at all, but still benefiting. And this one will make you faster between fights. Those are the 4 I'd recommend slotting, but it's really quality of life. It doesn't make a bloody difference in combat, really. So, up to you. So, how do you play it? It's really simple, actually. So, if you want to survive, you need to heal. And the way to heal is to hit stuff. So, we've got some dummies here. As you can see, this is Soul Trap. When that is on the target, if that dies, you'll heal and get resources back. If it doesn't, then obviously you won't. It will just do damage. So it's your choice whether you use that on multiple targets and just get loads and loads of kills, or if you decide to use Vigor and just have it as an active heal. That's up to you. In the meantime, maintain your Solar Barrage at all times. Always must be active. It will do damage, and it will keep your damage up on your Templar skills. While this is active, while keeping an eye on your survival, spears down, jab your ass off. That's all you need to do. Spear and jabs. When the spear is about to run out, recast it, and do some more jabs, while maintaining the Soul Trap on multiple targets if you can. And that's it. So this down, while maintaining this, and jab stuff. Keep jabbing, you'll keep healing. When it gets to 40% or lower on any target, you want to maintain the spear underneath their feet to take advantage of passives and damage. Soul Trap on them if you can, and Jesus Beam instead of jabs. This is for hitting loads of targets and getting the health down. This is for executing. Whenever your ultimate is ready, fire it. And that's all you need to do. Maintain the important stuff, and jab, 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 jab. Now if you get low, heavy attack, obviously, to maintain resources. But don't wait until you run out. Try and maintain it around sort of halfway, maybe 3/4 or something like that. Well, it's up to you. You'll get used to it. Now, fashion, I guess. What are we using? How are we dressed? This is really bloody simple, actually. We are using the Skingrad Vidette set. The whole thing. Helmet, chest, shoulders, hands, belt, legs, feet, done. And the staff is Spellscar Lithoarms staff, which is kind of cool. That is from event promotion, whatever. I think both of them were. But I've got no colors on them. None. No paint at all. That is how they come. Very Templar-esque with a Wizzy staff. How about that? Right, people, let me know what you think. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Have you tried it? Have you tried it? That's the most important thing. Because if you hate it and you haven't tried it, you don't have any experience. So you don't get to talk yet. Comment section below, people. Let me know what you think. Take it into Infinite Archive. Take it into any content you like. It's designed to be simple and effective at the same time. So if that is what you're looking for, congratulations, you found it. Thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you're not subscribing, obviously hit that button. It's free. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.